just stop and for a second, who makes the best cinematic edits on YouTube? Now there are tons of people that make crazy good edits, but today we're going to talk about one guy in particular, and that's the boy Peter McKinnon. The boy? Jeez. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We're all about creativity and affordability in filmmaking, so if that's something you're into, consider subscribing. So in this tutorial, we're going to use 3 things all inside Final Cut Pro to show you how to make an edit, a cinematic edit, just like Peter McKinnon. And it's all free. Perfect. What more could you want? There is a link to my 2019 video editing essentials with Final Cut Pro. That is in the top of the comments. You can go download that for free. If you want to drop $1 or $2 on it, that would be awesome and I'd much appreciate it, but it is free and it should have everything you need. So what are the 3 things that you need? And actually, I guess there are 4 because one of them's footage, but I'm going to give you some practice footage to play around with, so I'll leave that in a link in the comments as well. But the 3 things are, they're going to be speed ramps, motion blur, and the letterbox effect. Now these last 2, the letterbox effects and the motion blur, you'll get in that pack, so feel free to go and download that. But let's get our footage on the timeline and start to mess around with it. So first thing I'm going to do once I brought my footage onto the timeline is remove the audio, especially if I'm dealing with footage that has audio that I don't really like. So in this sequence, I had audio of me like scuffing the camera across the table, and that is not going to be useful in this clip. So I'm going to press Control, Command, Backspace, and that's going to delete my audio. If you guys are interested in a pack of shortcuts, I'll leave a link to that in the comments as well. Now, since I filmed this all in 120p, I'm going to drop this all down to slow-mo. So I'm going to press Shift 2 on my keyboard, and that's going to bring my footage down to 25%, which is exactly where I want it. And you guys may be thinking, this guy's using a lot of shortcuts, and when I try this myself, I can't do it. That's because I have a custom keyboard shortcut layout. You guys can download that, I'll leave a link in the comments. But for me, it does wonders. It saves me so much time, so I don't have to go and click this, that, the other, whatever it is. So now that we have our footage just how we want it, after we've removed the audio, we've set it to slow motion, so 25%, now it's time to start adding speed ramps. So first thing I'm going to do is go across my clip. I'm going to scrub through, set marker points where I want the clip to start, where I want it to end, and then where I want the speed ramps to start and end throughout my clip as well. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say, I want my clip to start here. Where I want it to end, I'd say here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those, delete those endpoints, and that leaves me with just the footage that I'm going to play with. Now it's time for me to add marker points where I want to add the speed ramps. So I'm going to go in again and say I want to speed ramp up to here. So you're thinking, yeah, but adding marker points doesn't really add my speed ramp. So this is the amazing bit. Just go into each of those marker points and start pressing Shift B. Now Shift B adds your points that you can now start playing around with the speed between those points. So for the first point, I want to be going fast. So I'm going to click this little drop down arrow, fast, I'm going to go, let's say 2 times. And then for the next point, I want to go slow, perfect. The next point, I'm going to go fast again, and maybe it just so happens I want to go at 2 times speed again. But let's say that you miss this up. You actually want this speed ramp not to start here, you want it to start down here. You could just, undo it and try doing it again, but you could also just double click on the point that you've made. Not the marker point, but the speed ramp point. So if I double click here, it gives me this option to edit, and now I can just pull this around my timeline as need be. Now this is a life-saving tool rather than having to go back, undo what you've already done, move it around, find the next place. Just edit it this way, and to get off of it, just double click on your timeline. So I want you to notice here that on my shot, I've got speed ramps at the beginning and at the end of my shots. This is a really cool, effective way to transition from one shot into the next, as though it's just a simple camera whip into the next shot. So keep that in mind next time you're editing something like this. Try and add speed ramps at the beginning and end, and then when you come onto your next shot, add a speed ramp at the beginning of that shot too. So you're speed ramping up and then down into the next shot. It gives a really cool effect. So now that we've completed step 1 of adding the speed ramps to our footage, it's time to add the motion blurs, but I want you guys to see the difference. So check this out now. And now let's start adding the motion blur. So if you've downloaded the pack from the comments, you'll notice there's a motion blur plugin. We can find that over in our titles, the motion blur, and we have 5 different options. Here we can drag these onto our clips based on the actual speed. So what I like to do here is, you're going to be putting motion blurs over the faster points and across the gray lines as well. So over the faster points, there's going to be more motion blur, or you're wanting more motion blur. And as we drop down into the slower speeds, we're going to use less of a motion blur. So for me, I'm going to start where I drop down. I'm going to go to minimal. I'm going to pull that onto my shot here. Make sure it lines up with the end of my speed ramp. And I'm going to drop this one down. And then I'm probably going to go and add a moderate and then go for a medium. And essentially what I'm doing is just layering these up so that I get this effect going from lots of motion blur down to absolutely none at all. So you'll see that I've layered this starting at fast, I'm at medium, then as I drop down in speed, I'm going to moderate and then to minimal. So essentially I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of these clips. Now, cool little trick, if you press Alt and highlight your items, you can just drag and copy those over. Saves you having to copy and paste or trying to go up here and then drag them down again. I find this really helps me. So next part that I like to do here to clean up my timeline is I will select all my clips here and I'll press Option G on my keyboard and create a compound clip. Name this as you want. Name it PM for now, because Peter McKinnon, how original. So check this out now. So now for the final step in how you get those epic cinematic bars in the top and the bottom of your shot. I really like the idea on the look of them rolling in from the top and the bottom. So in Final Cut Pro you have one option, which is to create the cinematic bars that just sit there on the page. Or from the pack that you just downloaded from, you could go to your effects browser on the right hand side, search for bars, grab your cinematic bars and just pull those onto your shot. Or you could go up to your titles, get your adjustment layer, pull that on top of your shot, stretch that all the way across, and then grab your cinematic bars, sit them in that adjustment layer, and that means that anything underneath that adjustment layer is going to grab those cinematic bars and have them on top of the shot. So then I'm going to close my effects browser, bring these all the way across, and you might notice there's nothing there. But if you look up in the browser on the right side, you see we have this border size icon up here. That is how we can animate this. So click at the beginning of your shot, click on your adjustment layer, click the keyframe tool, and go to wherever you want to in your shot. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds, let's say 3 seconds, and I'm going to increase the border size, and that's going to give me that effect of those bars rolling into the shot, and they're going to show throughout the rest of the shot. And there you have it, guys. Those are all the tips you need to create a cinematic edit just like Peter McKinnon. Again, the links in the description will be for the free download pack here. There'll also be for my custom keyboard workspaces. There'll also be a link for this free footage so you can go and try it out for yourself. And I think that's about it. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please drop a thumbs up on this video. It really helps. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.